was at the camp I had been going to for the past 4 years. I had heard many stories over the years, but never encountered anything as I had heard many others have. There was this story about a shadowy figure that haunted the rafters of an old recreation hall there. So me and a group decided to take a group picture up in the rafters just for kicks. Well, the freaky thing about that is that there is no electricity in that building, and in the picture that we took, the lights are on. Then when we got down, there were sounds of something running in the rafters, so we started singing Jesus Loves Me, and the noises got louder, and then suddenly they stopped. The next night, a lot of groups all slept in the Holland building, which is just an old building for sports and stuff. My cabin mates and I were all sleeping in a starlight formation, and after everyone had turned the lights out and laid down for the night, that is when it all took place. The only thing that lit up the room were exit signs. All of a sudden, something frantically ran by us. The floor was carpet, so we knew it had to be inside, judging by the sound and how close it was to us. I'd kind of been jinxing people all week, like I would think something and it would happen, so I told my friend that I thought about me opening my eyes and someone would be standing in front of me. The next thing I knew, Caitlin, on the other side of me, screamed and was so terrified she automatically went into tears. When we asked her what was wrong, she said she had just opened her eyes and saw a shadowy gray figure was standing right in front of her at the end of her sleeping bag. Then this big noise occurred right beside us. It sounded like a crackling noise of some sort. My counselor said she woke up and saw the same figure sitting in a chair near her. Then I felt like a presence was in my sleeping bag with me. Like there was a pressure on my body and something was playing with my toes. It's unexplainable. Honestly, I think we may have pissed off Rafter Man by taking our picture where he lives. Freaky, right? Not to mention this all happened at a Christian camp. Thanks for reading. It was told to me once that my grandfather attended the summer camp. At that time, I'm sure the camp had a different name like Camp Gregson or something. It was told to me once that my father and my uncles attended this camp too. I'm sure it's possible. It was an old camp. Nausea Fresh Air Camp, nestled in Greenfield, New Hampshire, on Sunset Lake at the base of Crooked Mountain, unfortunately closed now, was my home for a few weeks every summer from the age of 6 to the age of 12. My story takes place when I was around 10 years old, 1988-ish. I was being punished for that night. I had a horrible temper. I decided to punch a fellow camper in the back at dinner because he wouldn't stop slurping his tomato soup. My punishment: sit outside the nurse's office on a small group of boulders and get eaten by mosquitoes. Horrible time to be punished. It was mid-season and everyone was celebrating with a bonfire down at the waterfront. I had heard of the games they were going to play, and occasionally I could hear their laughter being carried on the wind to my rock. Mosquitoes are ruthless, and even though I had tented my t-shirt around my legs and tucked my arms inside, they managed to still bite me on every surface possible. For a bit of relief, I concocted a story that I had to use the bathroom or something and entered the nurse's office. I shouted for the nurse but received no answer. I shouted for a counselor and received no answer as well. After a little exploring, I discovered that I was alone. I decided to go back to my cabin and read a book. There were 4 main cabins that I knew of that were reserved for campers. Bunny Hole, for the newest and youngest of campers. Eagle's Nest, for those who were a bit older. Hawkeye, for the oldest campers. And Dugout, which seemed to have a different use every year I went to camp. That year, Dugout was being used for the oldest campers, and Hawkeye had been turned into a cabin for camp counselors. And this is where I stayed that year, Dugout. To get to Dugout, you took a narrow road or trail from the nurse's office, past the other 3 cabins, which were relatively close together on the right side of the trail, took a left turn after the bathrooms onto a new wide rocky trail leading up the mountain. This trail ended at Dugout. Each cabin held 24 campers. 4 single wooden beds lined the walls on the left and right side of the cabin. The center of the cabin held 8 sets of wooden bunk beds attached head to toe and side to side. There was a large room at the front of the cabin, as you walked in, where cubby holes were found to place your personal stuff in. This room was separated from the sleeping area by a wall with two door frames, one to enter the left side of the sleeping area, the other to enter the right. At the back end of the cabin was a single room reserved for the camp counselor. My bunk that year was bottom bunk, third towards the back, on the left side of the cabin. When I arrived at my cabin, the lights were on. I called out a hello or two, but nobody answered. I checked the counselor's room and found it empty. Fine by me. I wasn't supposed to be there anyway. I crawled underneath my covers and broke out my collection of choose-your-own-adventure books, careful as to not get too comfortable, in case somebody should enter the cabin and I'd be forced to slip underneath my bed quickly. I must have read for a while because when someone did enter, I didn't hear them coming. I was startled from my reading. The front door of the cabin swung open and slammed back again viciously, bouncing off the door frame as the spring tried to return it. A heavy set of footsteps entered the front room. Those footsteps told me it wasn't a camper. Darn, busted. I'd been lying on my stomach propped up on my elbows, so I flattened myself down on my bed and hoped that it wouldn't be noticed. The footsteps circled the front room relentlessly, and it sounded like whoever they belonged to was searching through the cubby holes. From my position, I couldn't see who it was because they weren't walking far enough left or right to reveal themselves in the door frames. I was lying there in my bunk, eyes darting back and forth from door frame to door frame, trying to catch a glimpse of someone as my ears followed the footsteps when they shuffled to a stop. Silence. I held my breath because of all the noise it was making. What happened next came fast and infinitely slow at the same time. With a greater haste, the footsteps resumed and traveled to the left side of the front room. I followed them with my ears and my eyes. Their intention was unmistakable. They were going to walk down the left side of the cabin, down the corridor between the beds, and most importantly, past my bed. When my ears started telling my eyes that I should definitely be seeing someone now, I'm sure I was only confused for a fraction of a second. But when my ears directed my eyes to where they were hearing the footsteps, I was frozen with fright because I could see the footsteps. A heavy imprint in the wooden floors, a pull of dust, the retracting of released weight. The floor thundered and moved with the progression of steps that made their way down the corridor, past my bunk, in arm's reach away from me, and entered the counselor's room at the far end without disturbing the curtain that separated the rooms. I sprang from my bed and exited the cabin, ran down the rocky trails at breakneck speed all the way to the nurse's office. Still no one there. I resumed my punishment on the rock and waited the rest of the night until everyone returned from the waterfront. I never told anyone there. Not too long ago, my then girlfriend and I decided to go camping. We decided on a ghost town near our homes in southern Arizona. In a book I had, it said there was a cemetery, but I had never found it while looking around there. Our trip got off to a late start because my girlfriend had to work late. It was dark when we arrived, so I drove down an abandoned road and found a nice spot with trees on a hill. We set up camp and cooked dinner and had some drinks by the fire to relax. A storm was coming, so we got into the tent to get out of the wind and rain. Later, we thought we heard voices out in the storm. My girlfriend thought she saw a man's outline when the lightning flashed. Being that this area is known for illegal alien and drug smuggling, I was armed and stepped out of the tent with my pistol drawn. I didn't see anyone, but saw a strange bluish-green light on a hill by us. At first I thought it was a car, but I realized it moved very strangely. Again, lightning flashed, and I thought I saw a man 15 feet away. I shined my flashlight, but no one was there. I got back in the tent. All night long we heard voices, so we got no sleep. The next morning, I got out to look for footprints in the mud and found none. It was during the search that I learned we were camping in the cemetery. I will never go back there camping again. This happened during my summer trip to my relative's place. My grandaunt lives in this lovely town surrounded by a forest-covered mountain range. I've always loved trekking there and have even camped out overnight with my cousins. I've been there numerous times. A cousin of mine and I were planning to leave on a 3-day trekking and camping trip into the jungle. At the last moment, my cousin ditched me, taking off for the weekend with his girlfriend. Now I was stuck with a camping trip ahead of me, but no company. I decided to go ahead on my own. So I was all of 22 years of age, and at 5'10" and packing a solid 80 kilos, I thought I could take care of myself. Nevertheless, I packed a Swiss Army knife, a machete, and a solid bamboo stick just to be on the safe side. The trip started off well, and by evening, I had made good ground. But then, with the failing light, my nerves started giving out, and I realized I was in the middle of a jungle all by myself. But being a brave, young, and foolish lad, I went on. I camped after a while in this natural clearing in the midst of a thickly wooded area. Soon I had a roaring campfire going and settled down, leaning against my backpack, helping myself to tinned pineapple slices. The fire and the ambiance soon drove the fear away. Sometime later, I thought I saw something unusual on the other side of the fire. Not being able to get a clear view because of the heat haze, I got up. I got the scare of my life when I saw a boy, must have been 7 to 8 years of age, clad just in a white loincloth, sitting very still on a rock on the other side. He was staring straight into the fire. I called out to him in a variety of languages, but just didn't get a response. The rock he was sitting on was in the midst of a muddy and slimy patch, and so I couldn't approach him either. So I settled down myself. The boy just didn't move and went on looking into the fire. I was really spooked and just sat there smoking one cigarette after another. This went on for more than a couple of hours. Finally, feeling the fatigue of the day catching up with me, I cuddled up with my machete and went to sleep. The morning scene was predictable: smoking ashes, dew on the grass, etc. And of course, the kid had disappeared. I went close up to the rock and examined the surroundings. Not a single footstep or mark. Spooky experience. So, did I end up dreaming the entire thing? No way. I had a dozen cigarette stubs lying around as proof of those tense, sleepless hours. That's the end of the story, people. I asked around a lot, but couldn't trace the story of a lost 8-year-old boy, living or dead. Maybe someday I will, but till then, this remains a mystery. I am a complete skeptic on all matters spiritual. I try to keep an open mind and enjoy stories of anything that smacks of the Twilight Zone, but I don't believe a word of it. I don't believe in an afterlife or UFOs. That said, I've had one encounter that I can't explain. The way it happened was so spontaneous that I think I can rule out a practical joke, but any other explanation fails me. I know that everyone always says this, but this is really true. I was camping with a friend in the Coast Range in northern Oregon. We were riding dirt bikes and were out after dark for one last ride. My bike was equipped with a very bright aftermarket headlight, and I could see what I saw quite clearly. As I rounded a corner on the way back to camp, my headlight shone on what seemed to be an incredibly white, incredibly skinny person. I seemed to be looking at a literal human skeleton. It was definitely masculine looking and standing on the bank, about 10 feet above the road. I saw it so briefly that it just didn't compute. After I passed it, I looked over my shoulder to see where my friend was, and he was about 200 yards back. I just assumed that I had been the victim of a bizarre trick of light. I was sure that what I saw was an artifact of lighting and human perception. When my friend pulled into camp a few seconds after me, he said that he was feeling awful and wanted to go pack up and go home. He then began picking up camp like a scared rabbit. I thought, he saw the ghostly light trick and he's gone completely to water. What a scaredy cat, or something no less juvenile. I began to rib him. I said, "What's the matter? You look like you've seen a ghost." I was making fun of him. He said, "You saw it too?" I told him that I had, and that it was a trick of light, and that he was acting about 30 years too young. We did pack up and leave camp afterwards. On the way home, I found out what he had seen couldn't have been the same trick of light. The being I had seen was about 10 feet up the bank on the left side of the gravel fire road. What my friend had seen was at road level, on the right side of the road, and it was holding a large, scary white dog on a leash. But we both thought we had seen what amounted to a walking skeleton, something that in no way resembled a living human being, but looked like nothing so much as a skeleton puppet. It was so much striking, a real event, that I have no doubt that we both saw the same thing. It's been almost 10 years and no practical jokers have come forward. I've camped and ridden there dozens of times since that night, and have never seen anything else that was so strange. Thanks for reading. Forest Park Cemetery was the place. I will never forget it. There's been so much said about the spooky, forgotten graveyard. Many stories that don't make any real sense. On a dare by my classmates, I went there with my friends and sister, after religious class no less. I figured that no spirit would bother me after religion, right? When we got there, it was desolate, and the only thing we heard were the dry leaves rustling along the grass and weeds. It was a very windy day. Things are quite overgrown there. As we made around the iron gate, we started to walk towards the mausoleum. Through the overgrown brush, my friend Marissa fell and cut her knee on some broken glass. It must have been from a previous party, no doubt. As we approached, we noticed that the wind had stopped completely, and it was very quiet. That scared my sister, Tony. She was saying that we must have walked through a time gated into another world or something. She was saying things like, "We can't get back now unless we find the time gate." I yelled at her to shut up and said to her she must stop staying up late watching those freak shows. I had to practically drag her along. With the exception of our constant bickering, we heard nothing until a faint wailing that Marissa picked up on. I said it was a cat or something, and the other two were telling me that it was the sound of a baby's cry that everyone told us about. As we came up to the building, we noticed torn clothing scattered about. I picked up a dirty red t-shirt, and it had 4 tears along its back. I said, "Holy cow, maybe someone was recently murdered here, and we would be the ones to find the body." By this time, the 2 others were shaking in their shoes. We walked around the building and noticed some new sneakers on the ground. As I picked one of them up and began to jokingly say that it must have been from the last person that was here, and that she must have been so scared she bolted out of here so fast that her sneakers fell off, I noticed some hair stuck to the corner of the building stone. We all went over to take a look, and it was someone's hair, and parts of the roots were there too. All of a sudden, the wind picked up real strong, and a white sheet floated into the air and spun around in a devil spiral. It almost looked like a ghost. That was the end of my joking, and we got out of there quick. There were just too many coincidences that day for me to not look back at and say it was nothing. Oh, I see you reached the end of the video. But what took you so long? I've been waiting at least 18 minutes to get to the end of this video, and you haven't even said hi to me? Come on, guys. Comment, like, and subscribe. You need to. At this point, I've been neglected for 18 minutes. Before you even reached the comment section, you didn't even say anything. So, what am I supposed to do when dogs are barking in the background? I'm trying to say comment, like, and subscribe, and especially share, and you're just waiting. Don't wait. Do something. Take action. I know my dogs are in the background barking because they're taking action. They want to be in this video. And you know what? I'm not going to edit that out. Why would I do that? No, but seriously, guys, thank you so much for being so supportive of me through my YouTube journey over the course of the past 2 years. And if you're new, thank you so much for being subscribed as long as you have. It's been a real journey, and I'm not intending on quitting, and I just want to let you guys know that I genuinely appreciate your support, and I won't go away. There's no way I'm quitting, and I just wanted to let you guys know that, okay? And I'm going to be myself. I'm always going to be who I am. I'm not going to change for anything, no matter how many subscribers I gain. So really, I just wanted to address some concerns that some people may have had in the comments about me not giving up and just keep pushing and keep doing your best, because you never know when success might be on the horizon. And I just want to let you guys know I feel like I'm already successful with this YouTube platform, you know, and no matter what, I'm still going to keep going. I'm still going to keep pushing. I'm still going to try my absolute best. I worked off my ass to make sure that this channel grew to at least 2K subscribers, and I'm ready for 3K, you know. I'm just ready for anything, you know, at this point. You know, there's nothing that you can't throw at me that I'm not going to be ready for. So, you guys, I love you guys, you know, and I really mean that. I genuinely mean that. You see the interaction in the comment section, you know, I love that. So I know this is taking a little bit too longer, but I just wanted to draw this out a little bit just to let you guys know that you need a voice to tell you that you are being listened to. And as, at least on my platform, on my channel specifically, I will interact with you. I will talk to you guys, you know, and that really matters to me because, you know, I don't want to see you guys be neglected at all. So just letting you guys know that. And, you know, before I continue this further and just be completely sappy about anything else, I just wanted to say, yeah, guys, I do love you. And I won't stop ever saying that because I genuinely do appreciate you and I care so much. So, talk to you guys in the next video. Love you once again.